Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Live Today Health Talk. And I thank you for joining me this weekend. And if you're listening while you're on the move, hopefully, you have your phone with you, you may have your earbuds in or your Bluetooth or whatever, and you're catching some of this sun. If you're in the metropolitan area, the sun is shining and it just feels so great out there. And there's no need for you to be sitting down. So while I'm talking, get up and take a stroll. If you don't go outside, go to the treadmill or the elliptical or something and just start moving your body while you listen. And I'll tell you why. Today, I'm going to be sharing some information that can be deemed a little controversial, okay? But it's information you need to know. There's some things going on that we need to know about because, they do our government or our world. So much is happening in the world. And by the time we found out about it, it's already done, right? And that I find that so disturbing to me that it's already done because I think that I keep my ears open and I think that I keep my ears to the ground, level-headed. Going to try to stay neutral in some of these cases, in all of these cases, going to try to stay neutral. So I'm sharing from the left and the right. So therefore, if you are on the left and I share right, don't throw anything at me. Don't get upset. And if you're on the right and I share something from the left, and I might have said that just the opposite, all right? But again, don't throw any shade my way. I'm only sharing information to make you more knowledgeable. So therefore, you can decide for yourself what you as a person or for your household and for your family, what works for you, what is deemed more healthy for you. And then you can figure out and go out and do something about it. That's what our talk show is all about, giving you the information to make you more knowledgeable. Okay, so that is the precursor for our talk show today. And before I go any further, you know what I need to do, right? Because I have to keep myself grounded and cover you too while you're listening. So I want to open up with prayer and then I'm going to go to scripture. And as always, that is what is most important. Whether we fight or whether we like or dislike or go out and protest or whatever we do, voicing our opinions, standing firm, standing up for our rights. At the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, I should say, God is in control, not any man or woman for that matter. Okay, so let's give God all the praises, all the honor, and all the glory. If you would give me a moment of silence. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you so very much for this platform. Father, I pray that you will put everything together in a way that you will have it to be shared so that it will come out gentle and in love, but that it will also be in a form of understanding. So it'll be broken down for someone in junior high to understand, because we need to keep it just on that level so that everybody will have an understanding of it. They'll walk away and they will be able to form an opinion about the information and not be judgmental. So we don't want anyone to be judgmental and we don't want anyone to be angry. We just want to give them the information so they can have a discussion with their families, with their loved ones, so they know what is coming before us. So, Heavenly Father, again, I thank you for the platform, and I thank you for all our sponsors. And I thank you that you are present. You are present in this day. Today is a present. It is a gift from you, a day in which we'll never see again. We never saw before, and we can't take it with us. So let us cherish the moment of your gift in the present that you have given us today. In your precious Son's holy name, Jesus, we thank you. Amen. Amen. All right. So today's scripture is going to be coming from 1 Timothy 3, verse 16 through 17. And it was a bit long today, but it's coming from the King James Version. Okay, so if you need to turn to another version or translation, be my guest to do so. But King James reads, all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. And that's exactly what we want to do with this information. May it be and its profitable doctrine for reproof. And if we have to go take a stand for correction, but it will also give us instructions in righteousness. Amen. All right. So here we go. Let's dive into it. So, oh, disclaimer. All right. Let me say that I didn't write any of this. All of this came from the news. Okay. So from news stations, social media, whatever. So it's public information already. So Facebook, YouTube, whomever, no need to ban me or give us any strikes. Okay. Because all of this has been deemed public information already. All I did was consolidate it and put it in an order. Hopefully that will make sense for everyone. Okay. Sponsors. So let's go with CTL Group Incorporated, which is our company here that was created to service our veterans and our senior citizens for health and wellness, but also to give them resources that they need in one spot. So we are deemed a veterans hub for resources. All right. So we can help with claims or community information and transitioning, but we do it in a way that is out of love and care. Okay, so we are learning our bedside manners and learning to emphasize, but learning to help the veterans and seniors that need support as they may be homebound now or may be ready for a transition for the good in the community, not a transition in the opposite way. So don't get that twisted. All right. But we want to keep them active and vital in the community. And that's what we stand for. All right. Women Veteran United Committee. Hey, we are getting ready to go represent the women for the Women's Memorial Day, for Memorial Day service for women veterans. That is coming up next month. We also have a scholarship program coming out soon. All right. So stay tuned for your children, elementary school and junior high, to be able to participate in a scholarship program. Okay. VFW just wrapped up their scholarship program, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and we had a top contender go all the way to national from the state of Maryland. Give her a hand. All right. So if you don't know about these scholarship programs, then please DM me or put a text, put a comment in one of the chats or comments, YouTube or Facebook, to ask more information about them. But these organizations care about our children. They care about our youth because they care about our future. All right. They care about our future. Okay. And as always, our streaming broadcast inspirational network. So you will find us on their YouTube channel. And then sometimes I will download them and cross them over onto the Live Today Health Talk YouTube channel. And on Twitter, on both handles, for SIBN and also for Butterfly Transformational on Twitter. Okay. So there's no reason you can't stay connected. So please give us thumbs up for liking and sharing. All right. Sharing the information as we come to you live. I've also, get ready. We're getting ready to go into some fitness with movement on this broadcasting channel as well. So we will be bringing, if you haven't joined me already on Facebook, we'll be bringing the movement, the yoga classes live to you for Yoga Veteran Yoga Project with a gentle flow. Some yoga movement to help us ease our pain, our mindfulness with breath work and resilience. Okay, so we can keep moving. And again, stay vital in that community. So all that comes together for our health and our wellness. All righty. So here we go. Let's get into it. The first topic I want to start with is the rumors that you've been hearing about the passports with COVID. So everybody is ready to travel, right? Spring is in the air and we're ready to ditch the mouthpieces. We're ready to ditch the face mask. We're ready to travel and see our loved ones that we haven't been able to see in, I can say, years now, because COVID has been here over a year. So we have grandbabies and grandparents that live in other states. And for whatever reasons, without endangering somebody or for fear of making somebody sick, we've been afraid to go and visit them. So we're ready to go, right? Well, now there may be a few concerns. There is what they call the Green Pass, and that has been coming out in some on other countries, but there's rumors that it may be heading our way. All right, and this is dealing with our passports, dealing with our travel, our passports, and whether or not you have been vaccinated. So what we need to do is listen to this Green Pass itinerary, see exactly what's on their agenda, whether it's ethical. So if you may want to get a pencil and paper, or either just listen to this later, because we need to see, as we keep hearing these rumors and they're talking about it coming our way, is this ethical? Can politicians or the law, actually suspend our rights to travel post, even after COVID, when they say, okay, COVID, we have enough people vaccinated, and we'll say post COVID, but can it also be reinforced once this law is created and in place? Can it be reinforced at the drop of a dime by who? The World Health Organization, if another pandemic should arise? Or is it just for COVID? So these are things that we need to read and see what's in this. Can it really, and is it fair for them to impose this on us? Because again, we have the right to choose, right? For testing, for vaccinations. So who is this? Not the organization, but where is this coming from that we will be mandated to have the vaccine on our passport, have this information? Because again, this is medical information. So where's HIPAA on this, or where's some of our other rights, our human rights, our amendment rights, to say that we have to disclose this information in order for us to travel? So let's listen to the first video I'm going to share with you, which is from Ireland. But again, it may be not within the United States, but we've heard rumors that it's coming. And this young lady, I think, really shared a lot of information on this, more than what I could find from any local newspaper or any local broadcast. So listen up.
Hi everyone. This day 12 months ago, I made my first video on the COVID-19 laws. At the time, many people said I was both trivialising the severity of COVID-19 and exaggerating the powers that both the Minister for Health and the Gardaí would assume and exercise arising from the enactment of the Health Preservation Act. The purpose of this video is not to seek vindication, because there is no victory to be sought from the tyranny we now live under. That said, let's take some clips from my video on the 4th of April 2020 to see whether the words I spoke in that video hold true. In response to the COVID-19 virus, the Irish government has enacted two extraordinary pieces of legislation that it is currently and will quite likely for many months to come use to control the freedom of people living in Ireland in an unprecedented and profound way. Ask yourself how much freedom you have, or how much protection from government overreach the Irish Constitution affords you if the Irish government can, inside 48 hours, grant themselves the power to determine what aspects of your life are necessary or unnecessary, such as whether your business can remain open, whether you are allowed to go to work, whether you can travel over 2 kilometres from your house for exercise, or whether your trip to the shop is essential depending on what items you bought. Whether you personally find these measures necessary or not, you should be acutely aware of how easy it was for the government to grant themselves this power over your freedom. And ask yourself the question, are these restrictions on human rights proportionate? I wish to make clear that I am using my freedom to respect the request to social distance, to work from home and to only make necessary journeys. However, I am unsure how I will feel if I am subjected to Gardaí interrogation in order to establish if my activities are considered essential, subject to the regulations which the Minister has enacted. I'm not saying that you should not abide by these laws, but what I am saying is that you should be asking questions about whether these laws are proportionate, whether they are constitutional, and recognise what not asking questions might mean for the freedoms of every citizen in this country into the future. I am not a doctor or a scientist, but I do know a lot of doctors and scientists are asking valid questions around the categorisation of deaths arising from COVID-19 and whether the restrictions placed on freedoms are justified by the medical information available. As a lawyer and a citizen of Ireland, the powers the government have granted to themselves make me very uneasy. So if you are to take anything away from this video, I ask you to consider the following. Number 1, the possibility of this act setting a precedent for similar legislation. What immediately springs into my mind is climate change. Number 2, the power granted to the Minister for Health is frightening and is more akin to the control exercised by communist states. 3, regulations must be implemented to enforce Section 10 of the Act that would restrict your movements, and the Minister may amend these regulations at any time. And number 4, question everything. We are now 12 months into the most severe erosion of human rights and civil liberties ever experienced in Ireland since we became a free state. In other times, those exerting such power and control originated from foreign lands. But those who have stripped you of your freedom were elected by the people of this country. We all know that the motivations of those in government is to remain in government, and this means that we have the power to make change happen. While we could be forgiven for allowing the Health Preservation Act to pass in March of 2020, in light of the fact we genuinely did not know how severe COVID-19 was going to be, and also because many of us were not in tune with how and when the legislation would be passed. But some 13 months later, there is absolutely no excuse for any inaction we exercise, and let us be under no doubt that the people who will suffer the most from our inaction will be our children. The main purpose of this video is to advise you that Part 3 of the Health Preservation Act is due to be extended before the 9th of June 2021. This is very important because Part 3 is the piece of legislation that the government have used to mandate the closure of businesses and churches, to restrict movements, to enforce the wearing of face coverings, and to make protesting illegal. With the exception of mandatory quarantine on entering the state, if Part 3 of the Health Preservation Act is not extended before the 9th of June, all other restrictions on freedoms will cease. What this means is that we have a window of 2 months inside which to lobby TDs to ensure they vote against the extension of Part 3 of the Health Preservation Act. With this in mind, I will be releasing a suite of letters and instructions over the next week, so I ask you to please watch for this announcement as we will only be targeting certain TDs. This project has the single biggest chance at reversing the erosion of freedoms in the shortest space of time. But to have any chance of success, we need thousands and thousands of people to stand with us and act. This project will last for 8 weeks, and we will need your support consistently over this period of time. On a personal note, when I think of what the government, the media and the Gardaí have done to this country and its people over the past 12 months, I feel a distressing sense of anger. Because I know the reason the government have made mandatory all of the current restrictions is because they do not believe you can be trusted to make informed decisions for yourself. They do not believe you can or will exercise a sufficient degree of care over yours or others' safety. And they do not believe you can decide what risks to assume for yourself and your family. Not only that, but they have created a deep sense of fear and confusion through disturbing levels of propaganda. They have granted the Gardaí extraordinary powers which have led to people being fined and jailed for taking children to deserted beaches, for cycling more than 5 kilometres from home, for travelling what they consider to be an unreasonable distance to buy food. In the exercise of this power, I have noticed that the Gardaí are selectively choosing who to punish, and I cannot help but notice that those in support of personal freedom have been targeted in greater numbers. While it was okay to protest for Black Lives Matter, it was not okay to protest for the freedom of everyone on the island of Ireland. If this was truly a free country, the government would support your right to decide the risks and benefits of your own actions and recognise that you are personally responsible for yourself. But the reality is that the government have exercised an unconscionable level of control over your life, and I believe they do not intend to surrender that control voluntarily. To conclude, I wish to ask you the following questions. Have you sacrificed enough? When was the last time you saw your grandparents? When was the last time you brought your children to the playground to play with other children? When was the last time your family gathered together for a meal? When was the last time you took a journey without fear of being punished by the Gardaí? When was the last time your business was allowed to open? When was the last time you saw a smile on another person's face? Have you sacrificed enough? Thanks for listening.
All right. So, like I said, I know Ireland is not in the DMV. However, some of those things she hit on, especially her last few questions, impact us all. And they were able to demonstrate for Black Lives Matter, but they were not able to demonstrate for other things. When they're told how far they can go for the grocery store, really? If this is already kicking off, then let's keep watching some of these other things. And you notice if they're not starting to take place here already, but yet we didn't know anything about this green pass, right? This legislation. What was it? Oh my goodness, the health, I forgot the name of it now. I have it written down, but the Preventive Health Care Act, I think it was. I may come back to it because I couldn't find anything local on it. All right. I could only find information in foreign territory, but not in this area. But at any rate, pieces of it have already started to disseminate in our area. So the next one is, so that was on travel. Now let's talk about churches. All right. Oh, how many of you have heard about churches? Hey, how many of you have heard about pastors being taken to court for having their churches open? And I've heard both, whether they had on masks or not. But pastors are being, ridiculed for having their churches open. Yes, I have heard on both sides. Some churches were open because they failed to protect their congregations and members in the congregation got sick. Some churches I've heard did not have a problem at all with the social distancing, the wearing of the mask, and their congregation has been healthy. Some churches didn't have on masks at all, and no one has gotten sick. But what I will say is, has this become law? Or was this part of COVID, sanctions that the governors have put out? And why or since when has a gathering become unlawful, especially if you're adhering to all the rules, the mask, the social distancing, right? And for the pastor to be held responsible. Now, I will say this is another clip that I'm going to share with you that is not in the DMV. And in this area, they have what is called a criminal code, whereas the there is a law against disturbing religious worship. But yet, their sanctuary was still disturbed. Their service was still interrupted, and law enforcement entered unwelcome. Next clip, please.
Welcome back. Hope you had a good Easter. Even in a decaying Christendom, there is something so heartening about Sunday service on Easter morn with the church pews packed, as they rarely are. And, oh, wait, no, sorry, my mistake. That was the old Easter. before the state rolled the stone in front of the church door. So the hosannas were decidedly muted yesterday. Singing remains forbidden in California churches. In Spain, they've taken the additional precaution of banning hymnals. In Greece, they've banned loudspeakers, just in case you're tempted to hold an outdoor service. But really, why not just cut to the chase? In Ireland, all in-person services are illegal. And like Father Hughes in Mullahoran, who said Mass to 40 congregants, you'll get a €500 fine if you're minded to try it. And Pastor Cronin at the Abundant Grace Church in Dublin was arrested mid-service. In one of posterity's little jests, an Irish Catholic is currently only free to practice his religion if he heads north across the border, where under the tyrannous British Protestant yoke, the churches are open, unlike down south. However, don't get carried away. What the state giveth, the state can take away. Here's British coppers in South London seizing the pulpit and closing down worship in mid-service.
It is Good Friday, and I appreciate you would like to worship, that this gathering is unlawful, so please may you leave the building now.
What's the proper response to that? Here's Pastor Arthur Pavlovsky in Calgary, Alberta.
Please get out. Get out of this property. Immediately get out. Okay. Get out of this property immediately. Out. I don't want to hear anything. Out of this property immediately. I don't want to hear a word. Out. Out. Out of this property immediately until you come back with a warrant.
He called them Nazis and the Gestapo. Preach it, preacher man. And through the sheer power of his words, he drove the coppers down the stairs like Jesus throwing the money changers out of the temple. For it is written, my house shall be called the house of prayer, and ye are not going to make it a den of totalitarian goons. The only people committing a crime there were Her Majesty's miserable and unworthy Calgary Constabulary, who were in breach of Section 176 of the Canadian Criminal Code. Quote, everyone who willfully disturbs or interrupts an assemblage of persons met for religious worship is guilty of an offence punishable on summary conviction. That's a slam dunk, and that Canadian pastor should file a complaint with, the police. There is a tragic element to the diminished state of the Christian churches a year into this thing. If ever there were a huge opportunity for religious ministry, a world in which everything else is dead, movies, shows, sports, concerts, restaurants, all the noisy distractions of the secular consumerist life is surely it. Yet for the most part, starting with the social justice pontiff in the Vatican blaming COVID on climate change, the churches blew it. And saddest of all, an unchurched year has seen church membership in the US fall for the first time below 50% of Americans, which is a pity, because when the churches fall silent, the only religion left is the state.
All right. Now, if that wasn't an eye-opener, so as you've been hearing all on the news for over a year now, we can go to the grocery store, we can protest, we can go to Walmart, we can go to the liquor stores, but the churches were closed and they were not in the U.S. And he even quoted U.S. figures. So you see, their eyes are on us. Everybody's eyes are on us, right? But where is all this stuff coming from? Now, the next one I'm going to share with you, I have to say, I did have to hold back on this one, and it did upset me. But I don't know whose side to be on, because I have loved ones on both sides, and I don't want you to take a side either. I just want you to read this literature that's coming out, read these bills that are coming out, and then decide within your community what can be done about it. This next clip is no stranger with the actions to us at all, but it did hurt me to watch this. So I'm just warning you, do not get upset. Just find out what we can do about it. There's no blood or anything in this. It's not gruesome. Nobody is being beat up, but the treatment that is being given to this young man, we need to find out what we can do about it. Stand together and stop it. We need to stop it. Every man and woman in blue is not bad. Every civilian in their car is not bad. Every civilian walking down the street without a mask on is not careless. Again, if they're walking alone, they're social distancing. If you come up to them and you have your mask on, you're protected. So I'm like, don't stop and argue with them for these things. Just pray for them if you feel as though their actions are wrong. But this next clip, I'm going to ask you to pray before you even watch it. All right? Don't form any opinions. Just think about, as we move forward, sharing information with you this evening, what we can do about it. So this next one is a lawsuit. The NAACP is reacting to police officers. The treatment of an Army lieutenant in full uniform. What happened to this officer's Fourth Amendment rights? And was this type of aggression necessary? Again, we just see it from the stop. I don't know about the chase or the follow. You can look it up if you like to. But I'm still asking, because if it had been me, what would I have done? How would I be feeling? I know I would be feeling violated. So let me stop talking and let you see the clip.
New tonight. The president of the Isle of Wight branch of the NAACP says they are launching their own investigation into a traffic stop that is now the center of a federal lawsuit. It happened last December in the town of Windsor.
A U.S. Army officer says his Fourth Amendment rights were violated when two town police officers illegally detained him, then pepper sprayed him and threatened to destroy his military career. We want to warn you, some of the video may be hard to watch. As Stand at Your Side's Brett Hall shows us, it was all caught on the police body camera.
Open the door, get out the car!
The body camera video is telling. Two Windsor police officers get out to conduct a traffic stop last December with guns drawn.
Keep your hands outside the window.
The man they pulled over?
I'm actively serving this country, and this is how you're going to treat me?
U.S. Army Second Lieutenant Karan Nazario.
Whoa, hold on. What's going on?
Ultimately pepper sprayed.
Get on the ground.
Can you please talk to me about what's
Get on
going
the ground.
on?
Get on the ground now.
All for what his attorney says was the officer's suspicion that Nazario was driving without a license plate.
This has got to stop.
Jonathan Arthur says his client is a victim of police brutality. In this case, at the hands of officers Joe Gutierrez and Daniel Crocker. Arthur says his client had temporary tags that were displayed in the rear window of the SUV the entire time. In a federal lawsuit, he argues Nazario's Fourth Amendment rights were violated when he was illegally pulled over, detained, and searched by officers.
They knew they were in the wrong, and then they threatened to destroy a man's career if he called him out on it.
After the encounter calms down, in body camera video, you can hear one of the officers appearing to explain how he's willing to not charge Nazario for obstruction of justice because the Army would find out if they do. But the officers also maintain they originally became aggressive when Nazario didn't immediately pull over or get out of the car when they requested. Arthur says his client just wanted to make sure he pulled over in a well-lit area, while the lawsuit asks for over $1 million in damages. Arthur says the police department needs to learn this is not okay.
After seeing what I've seen on the body cam footage, it's kind of hard to justify having them serving and protecting anything.
And we've reached out to both the town of Windsor and the police chief for comment. As of right now, we have not heard back. Brett Hall, 10 on your side.
Man, you guys, this was right in Virginia, okay? And there's another clip out there, and I didn't want to show it. All right, you can look at it if you want to without the news reporters, and it's totally from the body cam. And like you said, you can see, even though the windows were tinted, you can see there's a square there up in the upper right-hand corner of the video of the vehicle. Because it was a new vehicle, so his plates weren't down at the bottom. And you know how we do when the plates are stolen also, right? You put them in the window. So it's like, what did they stop him for again? So in the video, they said they stopped him because he was not exhibiting tags. And because he kept driving, then when he did stop, they got out with their weapons pulled out. I'm like, why are they pulling out their weapons if this was an ordinary traffic stop, right? But they said that he wouldn't stop, so he kept driving. And I don't know if this is police regular protocol or not. You keep driving. He says because he was driving while black, okay, or he's Latino and black, so right, mixed. But anyway, brown skin. So driving while brown skin, he wanted to get to a well-lit place. He's driving someplace for his protection. That's wrong right there, family. Why do we have to worry about our own protection for a traffic stop? And then if you look at the regular video, you will see that as his hands were out of the window, because they said, put your hands out the window. Then when he kept telling them to get out of the car, get out of the car, they're coming up to him with their weapons drawn. And he kept saying, can you tell me why you're stopping me? Can you tell me why you're stopping me? Then because he wouldn't get out, then they threw the disorderly conduct thing on him. So then here comes the pepper spray, and I'm like, then he can't breathe. Then he has a pup in the back. He's like, my dog can't breathe either. But then they're like, take off the seatbelt. He's like, I can't. My hands are out the window because now he's scared that if he goes back in with the hand, what can happen? Because they've got weapons drawn on him, right? I know you're following me here. And I'm like he said, this is how you treat me? I'm in a uniform. I fought for my country. The officer says, I'm a vet too. Wow. And you see, I'm getting excited, right? But I'm like, why should we have to be scared on a normal traffic stop that we're not going to stop? We're going to go to a place where there's other people or at least a well-lit place. I know that's how I feel now too. Don't expect me to pull over on some deserted road. No, because I don't know what may happen to me. And I can just have a light out. It could be something simple that I didn't know, because God forbid I wouldn't be out there doing something that I'm not supposed to be doing. But you're pulling me over for something simple and it escalates into something like that. He's like, why do you have your weapons drawn? And then to pepper spray him, in the face, not once, not twice, but I think like 3 times. He sprayed him, Father, and then pulled him out. And then when they told him, get on the ground, now I'm like, if I get on the ground, you might, try to put my face in the cement or something, or you might do me like, what just happened. So now he's not getting down. He's still asking them, what did I do? What did I do? And the cop stops kicking him, trying to make his, trying to fold his legs, trying to bend his legs so he'll drop to the ground. I think by now I probably would have been hollering help or something, or like had somebody when they first stopped me, put somebody on the phone with me or something, because I just think that went all wrong, family. But again, here we go with these rules. If you don't read, like I said, okay, what is protocol? When you stop me, are you not supposed to tell me what you're stopping me for? Okay, now you're saying I kept going. Yeah, because I'm not going to let you stop me on the side of a dark road, because now I'm fearful for my life. Should he have dialed 911, to have the dispatcher on the phone with him as they're stopping him? Let's get some rules here. Let's get some protocol together for our protection too. And that's a shame that we have to feel that way. Because again, good cops, loved ones, family members, in uniform, loved ones, family members. Why did that ever take place? All right, let me keep moving. This one, now we're going to move on to our tax dollars and the border, okay? Access limited to migration camps. Now, family, if everything is going on the way that it should be going on, the way that the public is being told at these migrant camps for the children, then why are the reporters or some of the other politicians allowed in there to take pictures of what's going on? Because people want to know, one, why are you bringing so many? Because we were told it was going to be a certain amount. How are they being cared for? How are they being treated? Our tax dollar money is going here. Now I understand even some type of stimulus package is going towards the families. And I could go on and on with that into other things, but I'm going to stay on this topic, all right? And let's see why can't questions concerning COVID also. After they're given the injection or the vaccine, are they kept separate from those that have tested positive? And then when they're moved on to their next place, once they're sent someplace where the state that's going to take care of them or where they're going to live, are they told whether this person was positive or whether they've had their vaccinations? Let's talk about the cartel. Cartel, I understand, is making some money off of this too, because there's violence going on here. How about our criminals being vetted? You have your, what are they? The MR13, you have your cartel people. Are background checks being done? I know that's a silly question to be asking, right? But everybody's coming across. How are they vetting them? And are the children being able to find loved ones or family members that are already here? Let's roll the next tape, please.
Now, danger at the U.S. border. As we've told you previously, 1/3 of migrant women and children have reported sexual abuse on their dangerous trek to America. Now, according to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, these individuals are still not safe in U.S. custody. Earlier this week, he launched a full investigation into allegations of child abuse, including sexual assault, at a San Antonio facility. It could be happening elsewhere, but Child Protective Services has not been allowed in to check. Wyoming Senator John Barrasso with me last Sunday on the public health crisis he witnessed in Donna, Texas.
And I watched them be tested for coronavirus. They had them in a courtyard. All of these young people, this is after they have been there. They're only allowed to be there for 3 days by law. You wouldn't want your own kids to be there for 3 minutes, but many are staying there for up to 10 days. They're being tested the day that they leave. Put them all in the courtyard. They do the instant test. And then those that have been tested positive are just kind of moved to one side of the courtroom, those negative to the other of this courtyard. But I will tell you, Maria, they've all been exposed. And then they're sent all across the country.
Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan and 6 other House members visited that same facility earlier this week. Congressman Jordan joins me now with his findings. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for making that dangerous trek down there. The senators were able to take some pictures, but then they were told to delete the pictures. Your group was barred, period, from taking any pictures, right? When your team asked written permission to film, they were told by Biden's handlers, it's a moot point.
Yeah, we were told that, and press wasn't allowed in. Even when Secretary Mayorkas went down this past week, Maria, the press weren't allowed in. So Joe Biden won't go down. The president won't go to the border. The vice president won't go to the border. Press aren't allowed in. And the reason that the press aren't allowed in is because they don't want the American people to know what's going on. The senator was right. These conditions are just not appropriate at all. One pod that we looked at in the Donna facility, the same facility the senator was talking about, there were supposed to be 33 kids in this area. There were 527. That's what the conditions are like. And the other thing, and I think this is key, if the press were allowed in, the Border Patrol agents would tell them exactly what they told us, namely that the reason for this is because of the policy that Joe Biden has now adopted, which is we're not going to keep people in Mexico. The policy that President Trump had, we're not going to keep people in Mexico while we evaluate to see if they can actually come into this country. That single policy is what's driving this huge volume. The huge volume of people coming is what's driving the terrible conditions and the harm that has been done to some of these young kids, as Governor Abbott has talked about.
Yeah, we're showing some of the video and pictures that you were able to capture. We are showing them while you're speaking. The Biden administration is spending $60 million a week to shelter minors, Congressman. I mean, I think it's extraordinary that the administration, rather than trying to stop the flow, they're actually expanding the capacity in this country to hold them, but nothing to do to stop the flow of migrants coming. They overturned Trump policies, changed, remain in Mexico, stopped construction of the wall, catch and release. Unless they go back to those policies, it's hard to believe that this stops.
And it almost makes you reach the conclusion that this is what they want, because you're exactly right. The Remain in Mexico policy they undid. They announced to the world that we're not going to finish the wall, and they announced to the world that we're not going to deport anyone. When you do that, everyone starts coming. 16,000 kids are being housed right now. The turnover time for those kids is 24 days before they're sent somewhere else in our country. And they expect that number to go from 16,000 to 60,000. So think of the volume, the hundreds of thousands of children that are coming in and families coming in and being moved across the country at a cost of $60 million a week right now. Of course, that cost is going to go higher. Why don't they use some of that money to actually complete the wall, to finish the wall? I mean, that would be better. 40% of Border Patrol agents' time is spent processing these folks versus patrolling the border, as we would expect as American taxpayers for them to be doing. So this is a huge problem and something that just frankly has to change. But the only way it can change to get back to some kind of control of the border is to go back to President Trump's policies, something I don't think the Biden administration is willing to do. I wish they would, though.
Well, it's just extraordinary how much misinformation that they're spewing out as well. Nancy Pelosi continues to blame the Trump administration. As extraordinary as that sounds, here she is this past week. Watch this.
The fact is that we're on a good path at the border under leadership of President Biden. It's about three things. It's about restructuring how we do what is happening there, because we were in a very bad situation under the Trump administration.
I mean, we've seen the charts, we've seen the numbers, Congressman.
Yeah, and she needs to go down and herself and talk to Border Patrol agents, because they would tell her that we are on anything but a good path. In fact, this is so overwhelming, such chaos on the border, that 3 days into the Biden administration, they set up a special facility to process families faster. And now when families we saw these families. We saw them when we were out at night. We saw them walking, coming out of the brush, walking to this facility. They know where to go. This facility in Texas, where they process them, and within 8 hours, these families are put on buses, put on planes, and they're sent somewhere to in the United States. So for her to say that is just absolutely 100% wrong, not consistent with the facts, not consistent with what every single border agent told us. And these border agents, by the way, Maria, they are busting their tail, trying to do their work as best they can under extreme circumstances, under chaos and crisis at the border. They're doing a great job, but it's just overwhelming right now because of the policies, unfortunately, that the Biden administration has adopted.
Congressman, this is just one policy out of an incredibly radical agenda. I got to get your take on everything else. He's got an infrastructure plan that he's calling infrastructure, but it's more of the Green New Deal. Is that a fair statement? And what about this commission that Biden is putting together to study packing the Supreme Court? You've got more spending, $4 trillion in taxes are coming, and perhaps the potential of a change in the Supreme Court, Congressman.
Yeah, I mean, what do we need a commission for? We already know where the Democrats are at. They want to try to pack the court. They want to pack the court because right now there's more conservatives on the court than they like, and there's a majority of conservatives that President Trump was able to put on the court. So, I mean, I guess they're going to put together a commission, but we already know where Democrats want to go. It's all about raw political power. House bill. I mean, think about in the last 6 weeks, Democrats in the House. Thank goodness for the filibuster, because it hasn't went through the Senate yet. But Democrats in the House have passed legislation that would radically change election law in House Bill 1. They passed legislation that would radically change police law. They passed legislation that would radically change gun law. And 3 weeks ago, they passed legislation that would radically change immigration law. At the very time there's a crisis on our southern border, they passed 2 bills that would give amnesty between 2 and 3 million illegal immigrants. This is just raw political power and radical policies that are coming from the Democrats. We better hope that Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema keep their word and we don't get this filibuster change in the Senate, because if we do, all this stuff is actually going to become law.
And it's the reason that all of these AGs are suing this administration. Congressman, many people hope you could do something about this. We're watching all of your battles. Congressman, great to see you this morning. Thank you, sir. Jim Jordan joining us in Ohio.
All right, family. So again, as I started out, I don't care whether I shouldn't say I don't care. Look, I'm not taking sides. Left, right, red, blue, Republican, Democrat. You need to know this information. So a couple of things he closed out with, and I have one more video for you, but that act that I was going to look up is the Health Preservation Act that the young lady was talking about in Ireland. Look it up. Look at what's in it. The Police Reform Act So I understand Maryland was the first to pass it, and they vetoed Governor Hogan's what he had proposed. And I may be saying that backwards because I'm rushing now trying to close out. But look into the Police Reform Act. Look into HR 1, which is supposed to be for the people act of 2021, because all of those acts impact immigration laws, police laws, health laws. What's going on? COVID. Now we have protests and hierarchy, people out of control. Do you really want to defund the police? Now you have all these people coming across the border, and Border Patrol is not correctly checking them. We don't know anything about any of these people. We don't know anything about the chaos going on. Remember the Capitol, what keeps happening to the Capitol downtown. Then we have the internal strife amongst the police brutality and between the brown lives and the black and brown lives with the police and people in uniform, and they've got to be clashing internally also, right? So do we really want to defund the police? Because who are you gonna call, right? Surely you know Ghostbusters gonna come when you need them. So we've got to read these laws, these acts, see what's in them. And let me see if I have time for this last video, but it's time to wake up, family. It's time to wake up. If we don't want Marxism, we don't want communists, and the media in controlling what we look at, and our religion and our economy just going haywire, our religious practices. Let me stop. Next video. Let me stop. Next video.
Here now, Dr. Ben Carson is with us. Your initial reaction first as a medical doctor to these reports we've been reporting on, and we have our investigative report from the border tonight, the perilous journey of these unaccompanied minors, the violence that often takes place, the rape that has taken place. Now it's taken place, as Governor Abbott has described. They've tried to keep his Child Protective Services from seeing these kids. Now that they're seeing them, now they're reporting these atrocities are happening. Your reaction as a medical doctor, sir?
Well, having spent almost my entire professional career dealing with children and the issues of children, obviously it breaks my heart to see these children being treated this way. And I don't know that anybody really cares that much. You know, they're being used as pawns, like so many of us are being used in this effort to divide this country. You know, I think it's going at a very macro level. You have to remember about 60 years ago, Nikita Khrushchev said, your children's children will live under communism and we won't have to fire a shot. You know, what was he talking about? He was talking about the ability to gain control of our educational system so you can indoctrinate the kids, gain control of the media so that you could spoon feed the people only what you wanted them to hear, exclude the things you didn't want them to hear. He was talking about replacing God and confidence in God with government. He was talking about raising the debt to such incredible levels that you could justify massive taxation, redistribution of wealth, and complete control by the government. We need to wake up. We need to go back and read some of the stuff that was going on decades ago when people were predicting what was going to happen, and we need to thwart it. And the best way to thwart it is to recognize that this is the United States of America.
Well, let me ask you
and we have to recognize those who are trying to divide us.
We have states like Delaware, New York, and Colorado that have far more restrictive voting laws than the new law in Georgia. But that didn't stop Joe Biden from now numerous times referring to it as Jim Crow 2.0. What is your reaction?
Well, I wonder that does he know what Jim Crow is? Has he really
know
read
what day
the
of the week it is, Doctor? Let's be honest.
Has he read about the lives of people who had to suffer under that system, not only of extreme segregation, but unfairness, incredible violence that was going on? This is nothing like that. And these laws in Georgia apply to everyone. They don't specifically apply to one group of people. And I find it quite offensive for people to assume that black people cannot get a voter ID, cannot get any kind of official ID. I don't know any black people like that. I don't know where they're finding these people. But the fact of the matter is, you know, black people are just like anybody else. And
Well,
tremendous
well,
progress
Doctor.
has been made. And all of a sudden, they're becoming victims because the media and politicians find it to their advantage to create those chasms.
Cho never changed the laws in Delaware. Far more restrictive than Georgia. It's outrageous what he's done here. Dr. Carson, great to see you again. Thank you.
All right, family. So again, as I close out, I just want you to remember to look into this. So I hope that you've heard from a couple of different sides. I don't know, it seemed like after I listened to it, they might have all been Republican. But hopefully I've given you an avenue for a couple of different sides. But remember, the what was the act? The Health Preservation Act, the Reform Bill Act for, and that's the one, police reform, excuse me, the bill on police reform. It's House passed it. So we need to look at it so we know what it entails, especially when it talks about the treatment and the brutality of police. But it then, at one point in time, it also talked about the weapons that they could carry. And it also talked about whether they could be trialed for their actions. So we need to look at this to say, can we hold them accountable? And then if we hold them so accountable, will they want to come out and do their jobs? Or will we tie their hands with all of these laws that when it is time for them to react to something that is unlawful, will they engage? Or will they be so afraid that they're going to be trialed or some type of action is going to be taken upon them that they won't do their jobs, they won't show up? So we need to be careful with that. All right. And then again, with the immigration law and HR 1. I mean, this is supposed to be for voting, but it's called For the People Act. Is it for the people? I mean, the bill addresses voter access, election integrity and security, campaign finance, and ethics for the three branches of government. But specifically, the bill expands voter registration. But now everybody can vote, anybody can vote. I mean, where are we? And then what are we voting for? When if we pack in the house with some of these with one side, then when we vote, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we setting up for? And additionally, the bill sets forth provisions related to election security, sharing intelligence information with state elected officials, supporting states in securing their election systems, developing national strategy to protect U.S. democratic institutions. And that's the thing there. We are supposed to be a republic of democratic institutions. And it's not feeling that way. It's not feeling that way. You weigh in the chat. You let me know. Are we being more dictated to, or do we still have our democratic institution in place, establishing the legislative branch for the National Commission to protect United States democratic institutions? All right, I'm out. But remember, our disclaimer, everything that I shared is to give you information, to give you knowledge, to make you more intelligent on the matter. So now you go back and talk with your families, with your loved ones, get their thoughts on it. Ask thought-provoking questions, and then take action within your rights. Be safe. Blessings. Love you all. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in.